Very good morning, students. Today we will going to focus on our next chapter, that is chapter number 7, drawing. Basically, this drawing is defined as the removal of small amount of water or other liquid from a material by the application of heat. Drying is a downstream operation and commonly utilized in the last stage of the process and thus has considerable importance. Drying means complete dryness or a condition known as air dry or maintaining an acceptable level. The liquid can be organic such as chloroform, ethanol and isopropanol. The solvents are present on account of synthesis, filtration and extraction. So the solvent evaporation is necessary for the preparation of the APA. The feed may be a solution or a suspension. So drying is also applied for removal of small quantities of water or liquid from gases and as in case of drying of gases. This is the content of my today's presentation, wherein I will going to cover the objectives of drying, applications and mechanism of drying process, measurement and applications of equilibrium moisture content, that is EMC, then rate of drying curve, classification and different types of dryer. So we're going to discuss one by one. This drying is primarily defined as the removal of small amount of water or other liquid from a material by the application of heat. It also includes the removal of volatile liquids or water from another liquid or gas or a suspension. Drying is possible when the environment is unsaturated with the water vapor. Hence, humidity is an important determinant for drying of solids. The product obtained from an evaporator is either concentrated solutions or suspensions or a wet slurry, whereas that from a dryer is substantially dry solid. The process of evaporation involves the removal of much more quantity of liquid per hour than in drying. Among the different types of method, the mechanical method is more favorable and inexpensive compared to the thermal process. Hence, before drying, the amount of liquid must be reduced to minimum. So basically the method of drying are of two types. First is thermal drying, that is your application of heat, and another is non-thermal drying, that is your mechanical way by means of your filter press or by means of your centrifuge even. Okay, so that is nothing but your freeze drying. You can take the example here. So drying is commonly the last stage in manufacture process and it is the final removal of water from material, usually by heat. So non-thermal drying basically are of three types: as squeezing wetted sponge, then adsorption by desiccant, that is desiccation process, and third one is extraction one. So non-thermal drying mainly consists of extraction, adsorption, absorption and desiccation. So expression of solid to remove liquid, example is a squeezing of wetted sponge. Extraction, wherein extraction of liquid from the solid by use of solvents. Absorption by use of desiccants such as anhydrous calcium chloride. Absorption, the absorption of moisture from the gases by passage through a sulfuric acid column. And last one is desiccation, wherein the moisture from a solid by placing it in a sealed container with a moisture removing material, example is silica gel in water. As far as the objective of this drying process is concerned, it decreases the food decomposition which caused by more production than usage. Wastage of food decreases the farmer's income due to its less utilization in comparison to its production in some particular time of a year. Second objective, it prevents the decompositions by the microbes so the product can be used for longer duration. Third objective will be it makes transportation easier by means of decreasing weight. Fourth objective, it is used for the reducing the transportation and storage cost by reducing the bulk and weight. Fifth one is manufacturers get more benefits because dried goods of superior quality will also have upright market value. And last, then sixth one is it aids in granule formation. Seventh would be it is used in material processing while preparing spray dried lactose, dried aluminum hydroxide, and also in scale preparation of ferric ammonium citrate. Eighth one is it enables the size reduction. Nine, it prevents the bacterial and mold growth that increases the product stability. And last objective would be in dry state, some substances like aspirin, penicillin, ascorbic acid, etc. are more get stable. As far as the applications of drying process is concerned, it is useful for the preparation of bulk drug. So there are the different types of the bulk drugs in the preparation of which drying is the final step after the operations like crystallization and filtration. So dried aluminum hydroxide, spray dried lactose, and the powder extracts are the sort of examples you can cite here. Next one is preservation of drug product, wherein the different types of drugs which gonna their type of decompositions which can be prevented by the drying. So the first drug, that is the crude drugs of animals and vegetable, origin, which may decompose by means of chemical way. Blood products and skin and tissue, due to the microbial growth they get decomposed. Synthetic and semi-synthetic drug, they may decompose by means of chemical decomposition. And effervescent tablets, that is aspirin and penicillin, yeah, this is also the sort of example of chemical decomposition. Then improved characteristics, so the end product of drying are of spherical shape, uniform size, and free flowing with the enhanced solubility. So some specific areas of importance are drying of granules improved their fluidity and compression, which is an important factor for the production of tablet and capsules. Then drying enhances the free flowing nature of viscous and sticky materials, example male phone extract, malt extract, and olive resin. Improved handling, a materials become lightweight and its bulk reduces if its moisture content is reduced by drying. This in turn reduces the transportation cost and storage becomes efficient. Size reduction of drugs becomes difficult if it contains the moisture. Reduction in transportation cost, stability enhancement is another issue as far as the application is concerned. So by removal of moisture significantly reduces the rate of chemical reactions, chances of microbial attack or enzymatic actions, and thus improve the stability. Then reduction in transportation cost, that is the transportation cost can be reduced by drying. Purification of crystalline products, that means drying purifies a crystalline product by removing the solvent adhering to the crystals. Then market specification, drying meets the market specification being an essential part of process, that is drying of paper. Provides the properties, drying provides the definite properties to pharmaceutical product. Prevention of corrosion, even that means drying prevents the corrosion occurring due to the presence of moisture. For example, presence of moisture in dry chlorine gas makes it very corrosive. So we're going to discuss it the one by one, what actually the theories of drying. Basically, in a wet solid mass, moisture is present in two forms, that is bound moisture and unbound moisture. So as far as the bound moisture is concerned, it is the minimum water, that is moisture, held by the material that exerts an equilibrium vapor pressure less than the pure water at the same temperature. Substances containing bound water are often called as hygroscopic substances. And in case of second one, that is unbound moistures, it is the amount of water held by the material that exerts an equilibrium vapor pressure is equal to that of pure water at the same temperature. So during the drying process, water is easily lost, but the resulting solid is not completely free from water molecules. This is known as air dry. And unbound water exists mostly in the voids of the solid. Thus, in a non-hygroscopic material, all the liquid is unbound water. In a hygroscopic material, the unbound moisture is liquid in excess of equilibrium moisture contained. So, measurement of moistures in a wet solid is referred as moisture contained or the moisture contained. MC, that is, so percentage MC is equal to weight of dry sample divided by weight of water in sample multiplied by 100. So easily removable water is the unbound water. At the defined environmental conditions, after removal of water completely, the material is said to be a bone dry. So unbound water exists largely in the voids of solid. Thus, in non-hygroscopic materials, all the liquid is unbound water. So, in a hygroscopic material, the unbound moisture is the liquid in excess of equilibrium moisture contained, corresponding to saturation humidity. Substances containing bound water are often called as hygroscopic substances. So, the distinction between bound and unbound water depends on the material itself. So, heat must be transferred to the material to be dried in order to supply the latent heat required for the vaporization of the moisture. So water diffuses through the material to the surface and subsequently evaporates into the air stream. Thus, drying involves both heat transfer and mass transfer operations simultaneously. So this is all about the unbound water and its mechanism and the differences of the bound and unbound water here. We'll see now the mechanism of drying. Basically, this mechanism of drying, which are of two types. One is by means of heat transfer, and another by means of mass transfer. So heat transfer, the most of the equipment designs used heat as a form of energy for drying. All mechanisms of heat transfers we have already been seen in the our fourth chapter, that is heat transfer. So conduction, convection and thermal radiations are the process, where in case of conduction we had seen it is explained by the Fourier's equation. So the temperature gradient is the driving force for the heat transfer there. Modeling can be attempted by means of considering the one direction. Second one is convection, wherein it involves the molecular scale transfer of kinetic energy and augmented by microscopic moment of fluid transfer. Such a heat transfer is a complex mechanism through empirically terms natural or forced convection and expressed by the film coefficient. Third one is thermal radiation. So in this case we had seen that radiant energy is emitted by a medium by virtue of its temperature. So the wavelength of thermal radiation falls between 0.1 and 100 micrometer, which includes the portion of ultraviolet, visible and infrared spectra. So the heat transfer rate is explained by means of Stefan Boltzmann equation. Okay, second one is mass transfer, wherein it involves the movement of the moisture to the surface of the solid and its subsequent evaporation from the surface. So the transfer of vapors from the surface to the surrounding is affected by external conditions like temperature, humidity, air flow rate, pressure, and evaporating surface exposed. As far as the different types of theory of drying is concerned, so recovery of solvent is not normally attempted, so that the various theories are proposed to explain the movement of moisture. So the first theory would be diffusion theory, second would be uh, capillarity theory, third one is pressure gradient theory, fourth one is gravity flow theory, fifth one is vaporization and condensation mechanism. So a few of these theories are explained quite of in a different manner. Okay, so we'll see next is equilibrium moisture content. Equilibrium moisture content is the amount of water present in the solid which exerts a vapor pressure equal to the vapor pressure of the atmosphere surrounding it. So EMC in a weight mass is shown below. So if you could able to understand this diagram, we had seen that weight masses are there, which is nothing but the vapor pressure of weight mass, which is exactly equal to the vapor pressure of atmosphere. So the equivalence it has been maintained here. So amount of water which is exactly equal to the EMC. So the temperature and humidity of air to which the substance is exposed are kept constant, and the substances either absorb or lost moistures depending on the following conditions. So first conditions would be desorption and second would be sorption. So desorption, when a substance containing moisture more than EMC is exposed to air of constant temperature and humidity, it loses water till EMC is reached. So this phenomena is called as desorption. If you could able to understand this diagram, then we'll come to know where the moisture in the solid is far greater as compared to the EMC of solid. Okay, so that's why we have taken these examples with the help of weight mass. Second one is sorption. When a substance containing moisture less than EMC is exposed to air of constant temperature and humidity, it absorbs water till EMC is reached. This phenomena is called as sorption, wherein we could see this condition is quite of reverse as compared to this desorption, wherein we had seen this moisture in the solid is quite of less uh, as compared to the EMC of solid moisture. So with the help of weight mass we had tried to explain this sorption technique. So thus it can be concluded that any substance which can be dried till EMC, that is neither below it or nor above it. Okay, so we'll see now the measurement of EMC. The value of EMC can be determined by plotting a graph between percent moisture contained and percent relative humidity. So the solid samples are placed in a series of closed chamber such as desiccators containing a desiccant for maintaining relative humidity in the enclosed airspace. Thus, the samples are exposed to varying conditions of humidity till the equilibrium is attained. That is, the sample gains a constant weight, wherein the moisture content is the difference in the final and initial weights. Okay. So we'll see what exactly the measurement of EMC is. So now by placing the percent relative humidity on x-axis and percent moisture contained on y-axis An equilibrium moisture content curve is plotted to determine the value of EMC. We'll see next the factors which are gonna affect the EMC. So the value of EMC vary due to the different types of the factors. So we're going to discuss it one by one. First one is your nature of material. Non-porous insoluble substances have zero EMC values. Example is talc. For fibrous or colloidal organic substances have high and variable EMC value. For porous substances have much higher and variable EMC value. The water may be held in fine capillary present in the interior of the substance which with no access to the surface. The dissolved substances reduces the vapor pressure and water may be molecularly bound. So the next one is nature of air, wherein substances exposed to humidity free air have zero EMC value, wherein second condition for the nature of air is substances exposed to the air of increased temperature have decreased EMC values. So EMC of solid is a constant value for a given temperature and humidity of air. If the equilibrium curves reach up to 100% relative humidity, the moisture content obtained, that is EMC with saturated air, so is the minimum amount of moisture at which the substance exerts a vapor pressure which is as high as that exerted by liquid water at the same temperature. Next one is free moisture contained, and it is the amount of water that is free to evaporate from the solid surface. It's called as FMC. So FMC is equal to total water content minus EMC. So the moisture present in the solid can be expressed on a weight or dry weight basis. So percent LOD, that is loss on drying, is equal to mass of water in sample in kg divided by total mass of weight sample in kg multiplied by 100. And second formula would be percent moisture content, that is percent MC, is equal to mass of water in sample in kg per mass of the dry sample in kg multiplied by 100. Next one is behavior of solids during drying or rate of drying. So the rate of drying of a sample can be determined by suspending the weight material on a balance in a drying cabinet and measuring the weight of sample as it dries as a function of time. So drying rate is equal to weight of water in sample in kg divided by time in hours multiplied by weight of dry solids in kg. So we're going to discuss now the drying rate curve or rate of drying curve. Okay, so the data obtained from the above experiment is plotted on a graph with FMC on a x-axis and drying rate on y-axis. So depending on the external condition and internal mechanism of fluid flow, solid show different drying pattern. So a typical drying cycle of a solid can be divided into three distinct zones. First one is initial adjustment period, second one is constant rate period, and third one is falling rate period. So this is exactly the rate of drying curve. If you could able to see this curve which is obtained as in the drying rate curve, so it is depicted in the figure. So the different stages of drying shown in the drying rate curve which are gonna discussed here. So the first case, that is if you could able to see this A, B, C, D, E point as well as A dash point. So we're going to discuss what exactly the AB, that is initial adjustment period. So initial adjustment period, which corresponds to time during this During this period, heat is absorbed by the substance and the temperature is increased. As a result, moisture evaporates and begins to cool the dried solid. When the heating and cooling rates equalizes, the temperature becomes stable and is equal to the weight bulb temperature of drying air, the point B in the graph. So it is corresponding to AB curve, which is also called as heating up period. During this period, solid absorb heat and temperature is increased. That is, and wetted substances when kept for drying, it absorb heat from surrounding and evaporization of moisture takes place, which cools the surface. Heat flows to the cool surface at high rates, leads to the rise in temperature and evaporation again. Okay, so this diagram which indicate that wherein this continues and after some time heating and cooling rate becomes equal, so this temperature is equal to weight bulb temperature of drying air and is referred by the point B on the graph. So hot air and the evaporation is simultaneously gonna takes place, totally depend upon the temperature. So hot air is there with respect to the temperature increase, evaporation is there with respect to at an equilibrium rate of heating minus rate of working. Second one is constant rate period. It is the time corresponding to the BC curve in graph. The temperature remains constant and the rate of drying is constant during this period. There is a continuous liquid film over the surface of solid. So moisture evaporating from the surface is replaced by the water diffusing from the interior to the solid. Also, the drying rate remains the constant as shown in the curve by means of region BC. So rate of diffusion is equal to rate of evaporation, where if you could able to see this diagram, then we'll come to know very easily. So as drying proceeds, the coarse capillaries are completely depleted of water and solid fails to maintain uniform film. So the area over which the moisture film is not present is known as dry spot. Such a dry spot start appearing and drying rate start falling, and point C at which decreases in drying rate start is referred to as an CMC, that is critical moisture content. Wherein if you could able to understand this diagram, then we'll come to know wherein the rate of evaporation is exactly equal to the rate of diffusion. Next one is, that is third, first falling rate period. This period is also known as unsaturated surface drying. It is the time corresponding to CD curve. During this period, the surface water is no longer replaced at a rate fast enough to maintain the continuous film on the surface. If you could able to understand this diagram, then we'll come to know where the dry spots begin to appear and rate of drying begins to fall off. So the point D is referred to as second critical point, wherein the rate of evaporation is far greater as compared to the rate of diffusion. Then second falling rate period, wherein it is the time corresponding to DE in the graph. During this period, the rate of drying falls even more rapidly than the first falling rate and no film is present on the surface. So at the end, the drying rate becomes zero and moisture content of solids at this point, that is point E, referred to as equilibrium moisture content, that is EMC. So EMC basically defined as the mass of water per unit mass of dry solid when drying limit has been attained by the use of air at any given temperature and the humidity. Wherein if you could able to understand this diagram, then we'll come to know very easily that rate of drying is directly proportional to the rate of diffusion of water vapor. So there are the different types of the dryers are there. So I have sum up these types of dryer with respect to its mechanism and along with its example. So when we see this first type, that is static bed dryer, so the mechanism based on it, system in which there is no relative movement among the solid particles being dried, although there may be bulk motion of the entire drying process or the mass. Example is tray dryer and as well as the freeze dryer. The second dryer would be moving bed dryer. The mechanism concerned with this moving bed dryer is when the system in which the drying particles are partially separated so that they flow each other. Example is drum dryer. Next one is fluidized bed dryer, wherein system in which the solid particles are partially suspended in an upward moving heated gas system. Example is fluidized bed dryer. Next dryer is pneumatic dryer, wherein the system in which the drying particles uh, are entrained and conveyed at a high velocity of gas stream. The examples are spray dryer. This is the classification of dryer I have cited here on the basis of solid handling. So wherein you could easily understand how that examples of dryers is gonna bifurcated by means of its own mechanism with respect to the material used for the drying purpose. Importance of drying. In pharmaceutical technology, drying is carried out for the one or more of the following reasons. So the reasons are to avoid or eliminate the moisture which may lead to the corrosion and decreases the product or drug stability. Second would be to improve or keep the good properties of the material, example flowability and the compressibility. Third reasons would be to reduce the cost of transportation of large volume materials, that is liquids. Fourth reason would be to make the material easy or more suitable for the handling. Then fifth reasons would be preservation or the preservatives at the time. Then sixth one would be the final steps in the evaporation, filtration and crystallization. Difference between the drying and the evaporation. So the first difference as far as drying is concerned, in drying process the main operations usually carried out on a solid material, example powder or the product. In case of evaporation, the main operation usually carried out on liquid materials, example solution or the product. Second point, that is in case of drying, is in most of the cases means the removal of relatively small amount of water from the solid, where in case of evaporation, which includes the removal of large amount of water from the solution. Third difference would in case of drying is in most cases drying involves the removal of water at temperatures below its boiling point, and in case of evaporation, evaporation means the removal of water by boiling a solution. Fourth difference in case of drying is water is usually removed by circulating air over the material in order to carry away the water vapor, and in case of evaporation, water is removed from the material as pure water vapor mixed with other gases. Now we're going to focus upon the different types of equipments, that is tray dryer, drum dryer, that is film dryer. Then third one is spray dryer, fourth one is fluidized bed dryer, fifth one is vacuum dryer, and sixth one is freeze dryer. So we will going to discuss it one by one. First one is tray dryer. Tray dryer is also called as truck dryer, also called as shelf dryer, also called as cabinet dryer, also called as compartment dryer. So we'll see the principle. The principle of tray dryer is based upon hot air circulation. So in tray dryer, the trays loaded with the substance to be dried are subjected to hot air circulating continuously. Moisture is removed from the substance by forced convection heating. As a result, the moist air get partially removed. As far as the construction is concerned, it does have the small or large cabinet insulated to reduce the heat loss compartment in which the trays are there. Second is the heating of air, fan, that is circulate the air, and inlet and outlet. So basically this tray dryer is consist of rectangular chamber with insulated walls. Within the heating chambers, that is tray, varying in number with the size of the dryer, are placed. So laboratory dryer contain approximately 3 trays, while industrial dryers contain more than 20 trays. Each tray is rectangular or square shaped of 1.2 to 2.4 meter square area. Trays are loaded 10 to 100 mm deep. The distance between the bottom surface of the tray and upper surface of the substance loaded in that tray should be 40 mm, and the trays are placed on trucks on wells which can be easily rolled into and out of the chamber. So two such trucks can be accommodated within a dryer, and the dryer is equipped with a fan to circulate air over the trays and with electrically heated elements to heat the air. So steam can also be preferred for this purpose as it is comparatively cheaper. Direction vents present in the corner of the chamber guide the air to flow in the desired path. As far as the working mechanism is concerned, so the trays are loaded with the substance to be dried. The loaded trays are placed within the chamber. Through the inlet, fresh air is introduced which heat up after the passing through the heaters. Hot air is circulated by using the fans at 2 to 5 meter per second. The flow of air is kept turbulent which lowers the atmospheric partial vapor pressure and the thickness of the air boundary layer. So the circulating air picks up the water, and after the surface water evaporates, water from the interior diffuses by capillary action. These events takes place in a single pass of air. Since the contact time and the amount of water picked up in a single pass is small, 80 to 90% of the discharge air is circulated back with the fans. Thus, only 10 to 20% of fresh air is introduced. The most moist air is discharged through an outlet. Thus, for drying the material evenly, a constant temperature and uniform flow of the air over it should be maintained. When wet granules, that is tablet or the capsules, are to be dried, the process of drying should be continued till the desired moisture content is reached. When the desired drying is achieved, the trays or the trucks are pulled out of the chamber and proceeded towards the tray dumping station. As far as the application is concerned, for drying of sticky material and the granular mass is applicable. Drying of crude drugs, chemicals, powders and the tablets and the granules, etc. It is also useful for the drying of sticky material, granular mass, crystalline material, plastic substances, wet mass preparation, precipitates and paste, and also useful for the crude drugs, chemicals, powders and tablet granules. It is also used for the drying certain equipments too. As far as the advantages are concerned, it is easy to operate. Batch process for the different product can useful for the drying of variety of material. Disadvantages are it requires the uh, labor, so cost of operations would be increased, and obviously it is a time consuming process. Next word is drum dryer, is also called as film drying as well as the roller drying. So if you could able to understand this diagram, then we'll come to know very easily what kind of the labeling conditions are there. So the principle of this drum dryer, which is based upon the material on the drum and dried. So the dryers involves longitudinal rotation of heated metal drum partially dipped in the solution to be dried. On each rotation, so the solutions get applied as a film on the drum surface and form a layer on drying. So a suitable knife is used for the scraping out the dried material while the drum is still rotating. As far as the construction is concerned, drum dryer consists of horizontally mounted hollow steel drum which is of around 0.6 to 3 meter diameter and 0.6 to 4 m length. So the external surface of the drum is smoothly polished and the feed fan is kept below the drum in such a way that the drum partially dips into the feed while rotating. So if you could able to understand this diagram, then we'll come to know very easily the construction of it. So working of the drum dryer, basically the liquid is applied to the surface and sprayed to a film. This may be done in various ways, but the simplest method is that shown in this figure, where the drums dips into the feed pan. Drying rate is controlled by using a suitable speed of rotation and the drum temperature. The product is scraped from the surface of the drum by means of a doctor knife. As far as the application is concerned, it is used for the drying solutions, slurries, suspensions, also useful for the drying of milk products, starch products, ferrous sulfate, ferrous suspensions of zinc oxides, kaolin, yeast pigments, then malt extracts, antibiotics, etc. As far as the advantages of this drum dryer is concerned, it is less time consuming as drying time is only a few seconds. Then it can also be used for the drying heat sensitive material because of the less drying time. Then it occupies the less space as it is compact. Heat and mass transfer rates are high as the solutions to be dried spreads as a thin film on the large heating surface. And last one would be end product is completely dried. Then disadvantages, yeah, obviously it is a less timing, sorry, the maintenance cost is high. The feed rate, film thickness and speed of rotation, temperatures can be controlled only by the skilled operators. Salt solutions with less solubility which cannot be dried here. So we'll see next one is spray dryer. The principle of the spray dryer, which is based upon the material to fine droplets moving stream of hot gas, so which basically involves the atomizing the fluid to be dried into the fine droplets. These droplets are ideally subjected to a moving stream of hot gas, thus resulting in an immediate increase in their temperature. Rising temperature results in the drying of fine droplets in the form of spherical particles. This process completes within a few seconds before the droplets reach the dryer wall. The construction of the spray dryer, which basically consists of large cylindrical drying chamber which having a short conical bottom. This chamber is made up of stainless steel with 2.5 to 9 meter diameter and 25 mm or more height. So the roof of the chamber has two inlets, one off for the hot air and other for the atomizer, that is spray risk atomizer. The diameter is about 300 mm, rotating at a speed of 3000 to 50,000 rpm rps. A cyclone separator is connected to the bottom of the dryer. So if you could able to understand this diagram, then we'll come to know very easily how easy that construction and working of these spray dryers are. So the spray dryer provides a large surface area for the heat and mass transferred by atomizing the liquid to small droplets. These are sprayed into a stream of hot air so that each droplet dries to a solid particles. The drying chamber resembles the cyclone, ensure the good circulation of air to facilitate the heat and mass transfer. That dried particles are separated by the centrifugal action. Spray dryer can be operated efficiently at various feed rates. Atomization of the liquid to form liquid droplets. When the liquid feed into the chambers through atomizer, then drying of liquid droplets due to the hot air drying, and then recovery of dried product, that is recovery in the last step. So these are the steps in there. As far as the first step, atomization of liquid is concerned, though, so the feed is introduced into the drying chamber through the atomizer, either under the gravitational force or by using a pump. The droplets form is the factor on which the properties of end product depends. Therefore, an atomizer should be selected properly. There are a variety of atomizers which can be used, such as pneumatic atomizer, pressure nozzle, and spinning disc atomizer. The rate at which the feed is introduced should be such that the droplets completely dry before reaching the drying chamber's wall, and also the product should not be overheated. Second one is drying of the liquid droplets, wherein the hot air introduced in the drying chamber through an inlet dries the fine droplets. The droplet surface gets immediately dried up, forming a touch shell, while the liquid inside this droplet escapes by diffusing through the shell at a particular rate. Concurrently, the heat transfer takes place from the outside to inside at a rate greater than liquid diffusion rate. This increases the heat inside the chamber, allowing the liquid to evaporate at a faster rate. This in turn raises the internal pressure, making the droplets swell. decreasing the shell thickness and increasing the permeability for vapor. So the shell ruptures, letting the internal pressure escape if it is neither elastic nor permeable. The air temperature should be such that the droplets completely dry before reaching the drying chamber walls, and also the product should not be overheated. Third step would be recovery of the dried product. When the droplets follow a helical path driven by the atomizer centrifugal force, while traveling through this path, the droplets get dried up and then fall at the conical bottom. These processes take a few seconds to complete. The particle size of end product ranging from 2 to 50 mm depends on the feed solid content, liquid viscosity, feed rate, and disk speed. So eventually the evaporating capacity of the spray dryers of maximum size is about 2000 kg per hour. As far as the applications is concerned, it is used for the drying heat sensitive substances. It is also useful for the drying suspensions such as starch, barium sulfate, and calcium phosphate in solutions. It is used for the drying coffee, soap, and detergent and plasma. It is also useful for the drying fruit juices, milk, and its products. uh, yeah, it is also useful for the drying of medicines like chloramphenicol. Advantages of these spray dryers: it's a very rapid and continuous process, low labor cost is required, gives product of uniform sphere form and fine droplets. It is suitable for the sterile products. As far as the disadvantages of this spray dryer is concerned, it required a very bulky and expensive one, huge equipment, not easy to operate, then low thermal efficiency is there. So storage problem occurs at as it produces the bulky product. Next one is fluidized bed dryer. The principle of fluidized bed dryer is based on the hot air uh, through bed of granules, and the granules lifted from the bottom and suspended in the air, that is fluidized state. So the it involves basically the introducing the hot air or the gas at high pressure within a container through its perforated bottom. So the container is filled with the granules to be dried, and the gas introduced lifts off the granules from the bottom and suspends them in the air stream, thus resulting in a fluidized state. This dryer is useful for the uniform drying of the material as the hot gas surrounds all the granules completely. Uh, as far as the construction is concerned, very vertically fluidized bed dryer and horizontally fluidized bed dryer are of two types of the bed dryer here. A vertical fluidized bed dryer is made up of stainless steel or the plastic. Okay, so detachable bowl is there, perforated bottom with the wire mesh support material, fan upper part and circulate air, fresh air inlet, free filter, heat exchanger or to heat the air, back filter, collect fine powders and all. Okay, so at the bottom of the dryer, if you could able to see, the detachable bowl is there, which is useful for the charging and discharging is present. This bowl has a perforated bottom with a wire mesh which supports the materials to be dried. The upper part of the dryer is equipped with a fan for circulating hot air. So the air is heated up to the desired temperature with the help of fresh air inlet, pre-filter and heat exchanger, which is connected in a series. So temperature of air at the inlet and outlet are monitors, and the filter bags are placed above the drying bowl to recover the fines. The working of the fluidized bed dryer: so the wet granules to be dried are put in the detachable bowl, which is then placed into the dryer. The fresh air introduced is allowed to pass through a pre-filter and then through a heat exchanger, after which it's get heated. The hot air flows through the bottom of the bowl and the fan is allowed to rotate. The velocity of air is increased gradually, and when it exceeds the settling velocity of the granules remain partially suspended in the gas stream at a point of pressure. The frictional drag on the particles equals the gravity force. At this point, the granules rise in the containers because of high velocity gas, which is around 1.5 to 7.5 meter per minute, and then fall back in a random boiling motion. This condition is called as fluidized state, wherein the hot air completely dries the material by surrounding each and every granule. The air passes through the filter bags and exits the dryer. When the particles trapped in the filter bags remain adhered to to their inside surface, which can be removed by the shaking the bags at frequent intervals. Intense mixing of granules and the hot air, which give uniform conditions of temperature, composition, and particle size distribution when the drying is achieved at a constant rate and a short falling rate period. So the residence time for the drying is 40 minutes. The material reaches the ambient temperature when left for some time in the dryer. So thereafter the bowl is pulled out for the discharging the free flowing end product. So this is very simple, actually, the process of fluidized bed dryer, where the applications of these fluidized bed dryers are, it is used for the drying granules to be punched into the tablets. It is also gonna useful for the mixing, granulation, and drying process. It is also useful for the coating granules. Then it is also useful for the mixing ingredients and modified form, which used for the coating or the granules. Okay, as far as the advantages of this fluidized bed dryer, it is less time consuming, as it takes 20 to 40 minutes for drying in the comparison to tray dryer, which takes 24 hours. Second merits would be its handling time of material is 15 times faster than the tray dryer. Third advantage would be its handling of material is very simple and demands reduced labor, as the drying containers are mobile. Fourth advantage would be it is available in different sizes with 5 to 200 kg per hour drying capacity. Its thermal efficiency is squared of 2 to 6 times than tray dryers, and then its mixing efficiency, its mixing efficiency is also gonna high. Its efficient mixing and drying capacity removes the hot spot in the dryer. Then its temperature for the drying can be higher than that of the tray dryer and truck dryer. Its time of contact for drying in short, thus suitable for the thermolabile substances too. It is also used for the either as a batch or the continuous type. It occupies a small floor space. Then migration of soluble material, as in case of static beds I'm talking, which does not require or occur due to the free movement of the individual particles. So this is all about the advantages, but as far as the disadvantage is concerned, drying of organic powders result in electrostatic charges, which can be avoided by the electrical earthening of the dryers. The second demerits would be the turbulence occurs in the fluidized state of granules, result in the attrition of some materials, thus producing the fines, and although this can be avoided by using an appropriate binding agents. And the last disadvantage would be the fine particles get entrapped, therefore should be collected using the filter bag. Next one is vacuum dryer. Basically this principle of this vacuum dryer is based on the drying by application of some vacuums. So the its application used in the is used by vacuum dryer to dry the ingredients. When by generating the vacuum, the pressure is dropped, water boils at a lower temperature, leading to the rapid evaporation. As far as the construction is concerned, vacuum dryer basically consists of heavy jacketed vessel, which is made up of cast iron and can endure the steam pressure in a jacket and high vacuum in the oven. uh, Around you can say 20 hollow shells, which are the part of the jacket, divided the 1.5 meter cube bounded space within the jacket into different parts. For the efficient heat conduction, these shelves provides the approximately 45 to 50 meter square of the surface area. The material to be dried is kept on the metal trays placed over the shelves. The oven should be sealed airtight by locking the door. The condenser is positioned between the oven and the vacuum pump. Uh, the uh, the working mechanism of the Vacuum dryer, basically the tray which containing the materials to be dried are placed on the shelves by using a vacuum pump. Pressure is reduced up to 30 to 6 kilopascals and the door is tightly closed. In the hollow space of jacket and shelves, the steam or the hot air is introduced and heat transmission occurs via conduction. The boiling point is reduced at this vacuum and water gets evaporated at 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. The condensation occurs when the water vapor enters the condenser and the vacuum line is detached when the process of drying is over and the dried product is recovered from the dryer. So this is very simple construction working mechanism related with the vacuum dryer is. As far as the application of this vacuum dryer is concerned, uh, it is used for the drying thermolabile substances. It is used for the drying dusty and hygroscopic material. Also for the drug which containing the toxic solvents. It is used for the drying feed containing valuable solvents which can be recovered by the condensation. It is used for the drying feed containing valuable solvents which can be recovered by the condensation mechanism, and it is used for drying drugs required as porous end products, and it is used for drying the friable uh, dry extracts. The advantages of vacuum dryer is, as trays are present within the dryer, material handling becomes very easy. Easy to operate. Material changing is also gonna easy. Shells which are hollow and can be heated electrically are used. It provides the larger surface area so that the rapid and efficient heat transfer occurs throughout the dryer body. The process of drying occurs at a required temperature as hot water can be supplied all over the dryer. Disadvantages of the vacuum dryer: it is a batch type process, its efficiency is quite of low, it is quite of expensive one, it demands the high labor, its maintenance cost is quite of high, overheating may occur due to the steam production, and obviously it involves the low heat transfer. Next one is freeze dryer, which is also called as lyophilization or lyophilizer. The method of freeze drying involves freezing the material and then warming in a vacuum so that the ice sublimes. This method is used for drying food, blood plasma or tissue and pharmaceuticals without affecting their physical structure. The principle of freeze dryer is basically based upon the drying by sublimation, triple point temperature and pressure below the triple point. The principle which involves the removal of water from the frozen material by sublimation. The experimental conditions required for freezing drying can be decided by the solid liquid vapor equilibrium phase diagram of water. Exposing the material to temperature and pressures below the triple point results in drying. Under these conditions, the heat transferred is used as latent heat and ice sublimes, that is changes to vapor state directly. The water vapor is removed by condensation in a cold trap maintained at a temperature lower than the frozen material. Freeze drying is also known as lyophilization, which means that for the removal of solvent, the system is made solvent loving. Okay, as far as the construction is concerned, dry chamber for basically this consists of drying chamber for the loading trays. Radiation source or the heating coils for the supplying heat is there. Vapor condensing or the adsorption systems are there. Vacuum pump or the steam ejectors or the both are required. So if you could able to understand or see this diagram, then we'll come to know very easily the construction and the working mechanism. So the vacuum chamber, that is suitable for the batch operations, which consist of shells for the loading the material to be freeze dried. The distance between the subliming surface and condenser should be less than the molecules, means path, thus increasing the drying rate. The condenser has a large surface area which is cooled by solid carbon dioxide slurred with acetone or the ethanol. The condenser temperature should be less than the evaporated surface of frozen material. These conditions can be maintained by frequent cleaning of the condenser surface. So this freeze drying is a process used to dry the extremely heating sensitive material. It allows the drying without excessive damage of proteins, blood products, and even microorganisms, which retain a small but significant viability. In this process, the initial liquid solution or suspension is frozen. The pressure above the frozen state is reduced and the water removed by sublimation. Thus, a liquid to vapor transition takes place, but here three states of matter involves, that is liquid to solid, then solid to vapor. Working of these freeze dryer, preparation and pre-treatment. Basically, there is limited volume of solution is fed into the container, since freeze drying cannot be done beyond a certain limit of depth of liquid. Pre-treatment is quite of necessary. The solution is pre-concentrated using tray drying technique under the normal condition of vacuum, reducing the actual drying rate by 8 to 10 times. The end product obtained is more porous. Liquid or solid desiccants are also used for this purpose. Pre-freezing to solidify water, which is about cold conditions of minus 50 degrees Celsius. So aqueous solutions are packed in vials, ampoules, or either in bottles and frozen at minus 50 degrees Celsius in cold shelves. During this, the cabinet is maintained at a low temperature and atmospheric pressure is gonna maintain. So 1 to 3 kilo per minute is the normal cooling rate, so that large ice crystals with large holes are formed when the ice sublimes. This also results in a porous end product. Third step would be primary drying, which is also called as sublimation of ice under the vacuum. So the material here to be dried is sprayed for the sublimation over a large surface area. The temperature and the pressures are maintained below the triple point of water, that is 0.0098 degrees Celsius and 0.533 kilopascals, that is 4.58 mm of Hg respectively, for the sublimation when only water is present. So when the material solution is dried, depression of freezing point of water occurs. Therefore, maintaining the temperature below eutectic point, that is pressure and the temperature at which the frozen material vaporizes without converting into the liquid, is required. So the eutectic point, usually ranging from 10 to 30 degrees Celsius, is determined depending on the drug substance dissolved in water. So the condition of 1 to 8 K below eutectic point is sufficient. About 3 mm of Hg, that is around 0.4 kilopascals, vacuum is applied on the frozen sample. Within 2 hours, the temperature is increased linearly to about 30 degrees Celsius. About 2900 kJ per hour of heat is kilojoule, that is kilojoule per hour of heat is supplied, which gets transferred as latent heat, causing the sublimation of ice. The inward movement of ice layer are controlled by heat in such a manner that highest possible water vapor is obtained at ice surface without melting the material. The temperature difference and also the vapor pressure difference between the evaporating surface and condenser is the driving force. So thickness of the frozen layer decreases, while that of the partially dried solids increases with the process of drying. In the primary stage of drying, the easily removable moisture, that is 98 to 99% of water, is eliminated, and lastly the sample still contains a few traces of moistures will gonna collect it. The fourth step would be secondary drying, which concerns about the removal of moisture at high vacuum. The temperature which is concerns with this fourth step is 50 to 60 degrees Celsius and low vacuum is there. So that means what? In this step, the traces of moisture still present are eliminated by heating the solid at 50 to 60 degrees Celsius under the vacuum lower than 50 mm of Hg. So the secondary drying rate is very slow, you can say, taking approximately 10 to 20 hours for its completion. And last step, obviously the packaging, wherein after replacing the vacuum with inert gas, the bottles and the vials are closed. Okay, so this is all about the working mechanism of freeze drying. As far as the application of this freeze drying is concerned, it is used for the manufacturing injections, solutions and suspension. It can also be used for the drying of blood plasma and its fraction products, bacterial and viral cultures, then human tissues which consist of arteries and the corneal tissues, then antibiotics and plant extracts and steroids, vitamins and the enzymes. And the last applications would be it is also useful for the food items like prawns, mushrooms, meat and poultry products, coffees and tea concentrates, and citrus fruit juices can also be dried here. As far as the advantages of this freeze dryer is concerned, it is used for the drying thermolabile materials. The porous and uniform product obtained retains its bulk volume as reconstitution of the material is easy. Then product denaturation does not occur here. Then migration of salts and other solutes does not occur. Then you can say that less volatile material is of lost. Then moisture level can be kept low without decomposition. Then drying can be carried out in the final container, wherein the single dose and multiple dose vials are there of the material. Then maintaining the sterility is quite of easy. Okay, then end product can be stored at ambient temperature if it is sealed properly, and by providing the inert atmospheres. As far as the disadvantages of this freeze dryer is concerned, the product with high porosity and large surface area is likely to oxidize. To prevent the oxidation, the product should be packed in volume or using the inert gas or in a container impermeable to gases. Then equipment and running costs are quite of high. Then third disadvantage would be solutions containing non-aqueous solvents can be dried off by means of this method. Then it is obviously a time consuming process. That means it takes around 10 hours to complete the operations, and time cannot be we cannot going to be short on it. Okay, so this is all about the demerits of freeze drying. So as far as the summary or the conclusion of this chapter is concerned, yes, definitely we can say that drying is a process of removal of small amount of water or other liquids from a material by the application of heat. So in drying, the thermal vaporization takes place and the final product becomes dry. So drying is a downstream operation, and the next step would be packing, that is bulk drugs, or further processing, that is for the tablets even. So drugs in solid state are stable, easy to handle, and possesses improved characteristics such as uniform size, spherical shape, and good flows. Hence, drying is an essential step in the preparation of bulk drug and in some formulation. Drying is achieved by these mechanisms such as diffusion, capillarity, then pressure gradient, gravity flow, that is porous solids, and vaporization and condensation. So among these, diffusion and capillarity theories are frequently observed, and pressure gradient theory is applicable when the heating medium is radiation. So the materials theory is applicable when the heating medium is radiation, and the materials undergo the sorptions, desorption steps, and the equilibrium relationships are gonna very important, which depends on the nature of material and moisture content of the environment in a dryer. So air of constant temperature and humidity is passed over the wet solid. After a long exposure, equilibrium is reached. So the EMC, that is equilibrium moisture content, is the lowest amount of water that a solid can retain. So the drying rate curves are established for each material, and the process is tracked by for uh, identifying the stages of drying, such as constant drying rate period, first falling drying rate period, and second falling drying rate period, and finally EMC. So the choice of dryers totally depends upon the material characteristics of feed, product quality, recovery problems, and available facilities, including economic consideration, and the critical attributes of the quality for the drying process are inlet outlet temperatures, humidity, and time of drying. So thank you very much. So this is all about the complete drying process we had seen here. Okay, next chapters which we do have, that is chapter number 8, that is mixing. So we will going to cover this topic in a very good sense in next week. Thank you so much.